competitive world, average won't cut it. The Success Launch Point shows you how to stand out, deliver massive value, and rise above the crowd. With on-demand courses, expert coaching, and a community focused on growth, you'll accelerate your career and your paycheck. It's time to level up. Check out modernobserver.com/launchpoint.
Russia in no rush for peace. More drug operations targeted. Robot warfare moves ahead, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. The U.S. Treasury announced sweeping new sanctions Wednesday against Russia's two largest oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, targeting dozens of subsidiaries in a bid to choke off funding for the Kremlin's war in Ukraine. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the action comes amid President Putin's refusal to negotiate a ceasefire, adding that further steps may follow if Moscow remains defiant. Peace efforts led by President Trump have stalled, with a planned summit with Putin now scrapped. Trump has backed a ceasefire along current front lines, which Ukrainian President Zelensky called a good compromise, but the Kremlin has shown little urgency to negotiate. President Trump, meanwhile, ruled out sending Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine, citing their complexity and a tremendous learning curve that would require lengthy U.S. training. Speaking during a White House meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Trump said the U.S. won't fire the weapons on Ukraine's behalf or train foreign militaries to use them. Meanwhile, Putin directed drills of strategic nuclear forces yesterday, including testing the Russian stock of intercontinental ballistic missiles. The U.S. expanded its campaign against accused drug boats to the Pacific. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted a video on X of a strike on a boat in the eastern Pacific that he said was known by our intelligence to be involved in illicit narcotic smuggling. The strike, which killed 2 people on board, was the 8th one the Trump administration has carried out on a boat allegedly carrying drugs, but all the others were in the Caribbean Sea. Legal experts and members of Congress have questioned whether the strikes are lawful since they began last month, but the administration says it is relying on a legal opinion that it can treat drug traffickers like enemy combatants in a war rather than as criminals. North Carolina lawmakers approved a new congressional map yesterday, which will give an additional House seat to the Republicans after next year's midterms. The state is the only one where the governor, a Democrat, doesn't have the power to veto the map. North Carolina's 1st District, which narrowly supported President Donald Trump in the 2024 election and is represented by Democrat Representative Don Davis, would become more Republican-friendly under the new lines, with the nearby 3rd District absorbing some new Democratic areas. Republicans currently control 10 of the state's 14 districts. Climate change is apparently on a slow decline. Earth will achieve net zero carbon dioxide emissions by 2093, and the temperature rise will stabilize at 2.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by 2100, according to a new projection from Norwegian firm Der Norsk Veritas. A casual observer might conclude that the energy transition is stalled or in reverse, they write. That is most definitely not the case. Meta cuts approximately 600 jobs in its AI unit. Meta is conducting mass layoffs in its AI unit even as it pours billions into the tech. The company is not backing off on AI, however. Reports say that Mark Zuckerberg wasn't satisfied with its long-standing AI efforts and has been reshaping its push by starting a new lab and luring talent from competitors with headline-making multi-million-dollar compensation packages. Reducing the size of the team will help get decisions made more efficiently, Meta's chief AI officer Alexander Wang, who was recently brought in himself through Meta's $14.3 billion investment in his company, wrote in a memo to staff. Foundation, a San Francisco startup, has developed the first humanoid robot explicitly designed for warfare. The 5'9", 175-pound robot, called the Phantom Mk1, can carry up to 44 pounds and is expected to be weaponized for battlefield deployment. Co-founder Mike LeBlanc, a former Marine, described the robots as bullet sponges instead of soldiers, positioning them as autonomous ground drones capable of handling high-risk missions. The future of warfare is real-life video games, CEO Sankrit Pathak said. Air, land, sea, all of them will be autonomous. Foundation has already moved beyond prototypes, securing $10 million in defense contracts with the U.S. Navy, Air Force, and Army for logistics, planning, and aircraft sustainment. The company plans to produce 10,000 units by next year. Warner Bros. Discovery has rejected 3 Paramount Skydance takeover offers as it fields broad buyout interest. Paramount's last offer was for just under $24 per share and was comprised of 80% cash, according to CNBC. Warner Bros. Discovery said on Tuesday that it had received unsolicited interest from multiple parties and that it would expand its strategic review process to review all bids. At the same time, the company is moving ahead with previously announced plans to separate into 2 entities, a streaming and studios business and a global networks business. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.